Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of The Rundown with Lou. As we discussed last week, we will be hitting on the 5 biggest topics of the week with my panelists, my guests, my co-stars, however you want to call them. It is up to you. So let me quickly introduce the panel, and we're going to jump into these topics. First up, I have Mr. Supercell 0320.
What the heck?
JVS creator, editor, and chief, its own personal Prairie White, Mr. Sam Leggett. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having me for this craziness.
And next up, I have the myth, the man, one half of one of the greatest podcasts ever made, Earth 2's own Mo Hamed Crosby. What's going on, Mo?
Why do you always do that, bro?
Hey, man. Hey, it is the best way to
done that.
Best way to introduce you.
Never. I don't get it, but thanks for having me.
Introduce you. And last but definitely not least,
the winner of last week, obviously.
Wow.
I just played.
He said that like we are playing elimination here.
I just played, folks. I just played.
The producer himself, Mr. Gold Belt. So, gentlemen, how's everyone doing? And are you ready to jump into these topics?
Oh, I'm ready. But you tell
me let's go for it.
Show. Like what's the name of that show? You didn't tell me what's that kind of show. Nature coming in talking about the winner.
I mean, it's something.
I was patting my fancy. I knew it's still competition.
It was called Lou and something versus the world. But we'll get back to that show a little bit later. So quickly, we'll jump into this first topic of who won the weekend. Ooh. Now, gentlemen, this past weekend felt like the epicenter of all entertainment dropped on Friday. We had the official arrival of Tenet. We had the arrival of The Boys on Amazon. We had the arrival, even though it was a Thursday, the official arrival for most people of Raised by Wolves by HBO Max. And this weekend we had the season premiere of the new season of Power and the season finale of P-Valley. So, gentlemen, I ask you this question. Who won the weekend? And I'm going to start with Mr. Crosby.
All right, confession. I have not seen an episode of P-Valley, so let me just go ahead and throw that out there. So I can't tell you if P-Valley won the weekend.
So next up, we're going to get input.
No, but hold on. From what I can say, right, I will give it to Tenet. Because everything was against it. Like, this was, we're still in the pandemic. We're still in the middle of that global pandemic. And so everything against it, and it still was able to make some numbers and have a positive look on theaters rolling out and opening up. Whichever way, if you saw it this weekend, whether through a drive-in or you actually went to the theater to see it, whatever state you're in, because New Jersey opened up this weekend, and I 100% believe they opened up for Tenet. So I got to give it to Tenet because I don't see anybody talking about The Boys like that.
All right. Sam, what do you think won this weekend?
All right, so I'm looking at it from a couple different vantage points because I look at it like how many people actually watched whatever the subject matter actually is. Like they had The Boys season 2. You had from the game side, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater drop. They had the Avengers game drop. You had NBA 2K21 drop. And then you also had like the TV shows like Raised by Wolves. And then, of course, I think you had like the Lovecraft episode nobody cared about. And then you had Tenet and Mulan.
Sam, are you reading off a piece of paper? Because you're cheating.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He's writing down.
That's what I'm talking about.
My bad. My bad, Mo. Somebody came prepared.
I'm sorry. But, I mean, from my perception, just to be real quick, I think that Tenet did more than I anticipated. But I think that from public perception standpoint, who really all watched or actually viewed, I would say The Boys season 2. Everybody that I knew for the most part was like, yo, Boys, by the 3rd episode, it was lit. I have people talking to me, it's like, yo, what's Stormfront? What is going on with this? What is happening with the show? And so from that standpoint, I think that had like a little leg up. I would say right after that, I would give it to Tenet. And it's weird because I thought that the Avengers game, a lot of people said it wasn't as good as they really wanted it to be, but the buzz was still there. A lot of people were still talking about it. So I would kind of live it at like The Boys season 2. Then I'll put it right at Tenet right after that. For the people that did see it, they were excited about seeing it or wanted to see it. And then right after that, I would give it to, like I said, what they were gonna do for I just lost my train. The Avengers game. Yeah.
Avengers game.
So I would say The Boys season 2, I still say has the top tier for the weekend. It won it, in my personal opinion. Even though it was only 3 episodes.
Now, Najir, I'm gonna again ask you the same question, but I'm gonna frame it a little different for you here. Sam doesn't watch P-Valley. Mo doesn't watch P-Valley.
I don't.
P-Valley put up, as the numbers came in today, historic numbers on Sunday for stars.
No surprise.
Do you think because of those numbers we could say it won the weekend, or do we have to give it a Tenet with its amazing box office? Or maybe it's another thing you think altogether that won this weekend?
So I definitely appreciate Sam's input on the game aspect here, because the games he named absolutely amongst our community was of everybody's lip service. Everybody's talking about playing Avengers and so on. So I definitely appreciate that. I got a wild card for Sam, and I don't think he's ready for it. But without a doubt, P-Valley won this weekend analytically. And Tenet didn't win it analytically for me because you guessed it. You knew exactly what it was going to do. And I still think Tenet is it has an asterisk next to it because it's opened up 3 consecutive weekends. Our opening weekend last week, our opening weekend was last week, and the week before that was Dallas not Dallas, Texas, Arizona, and some other place. So it had different weekends. So like the whole opening weekend thing, well, which one is the official one? But it did the numbers that you thought it was going to do, and I without a doubt respect that. But when you talk about what won the weekend is an underdog that no one seen coming for me, because it did the most streams on Netflix this weekend, and it doesn't even make sense. And the reason why I pointed that at Sam, because Sam just reviewed. Yes, indeed. Cobra Kai is the unsung hero this weekend in killing the numbers of stream. Now, we talked about how Netflix is trying to kill the game last week, and they are continuing to prove that they are the number 1 streaming service. And what that means, the number 1 streaming service, and they having the biggest streams on that number 1 streaming service and bringing Cobra Kai, I think that wins the weekend because it's the one that no one's talking about, yet everyone watched. And it's a damn good show, shall I say.
I'll give you all a piece of information and a little curveball before we go to the next topic here. The number one trending show this weekend was actually Away by Netflix.
That released Friday?
That released Friday.
I love that show.
It shocked people. It proves the power of Netflix that we talked about last week. Yeah. That you can have that show, and then you can have Cobra Kai also do so well. Now let's go on to a relatively serious topic. Some news that dropped today. The Toronto Film Festival announced today that masks will be optional at their screenings. Because of this news that masks will be optional at their screenings, they have a lot of organizers concerned that this could create a mega center for the coronavirus because of this decision. Do you fellas believe that this could start a trend for big events like the Toronto Film Festival to go mask optional? So I'm start off with the person I know who's most concerned about this, Sam.
Yeah, I actually do. I am a little concerned personally because I was looking at the Venice Film Festival. Like I think I messaged you, Lucas, about some of the things that they kind of opened up about. I think one of the biggest one was for Regina King's directorial debut and a couple other big name titles. But I didn't realize that Venice wasn't virtual. I didn't realize until the last minute. I was like, yo, those people are actually out there. And they were some of them were wearing masks, some of them weren't. And they were taking all these different paparazzi, but they had all the media to the distance. And if they are willing to do that with Venice, and TIFF is talking about this, I think it's going to definitely be a trend because they don't want to alienate the people that are ongoers and actually going there. But I think they're going to try to do their best to mediate media from being there. But I don't see any way around it. I personally am concerned. I think that cans will probably be the same situation, and everything else will probably follow suit with whatever TIFF is going to do. I'm curious to see if they're going to keep with that, though, if there's a resurgence in the next 2 to 3 weeks, because again, things are just starting to kind of really open up wide from a lot of different standpoints, whether it be public events, whether it be theaters. So in my theory, in a month, if things stay the same like they are right now, I think they're definitely going to keep it as is. Do I think that's safe personally? No, I definitely think that is a risk that's not necessary, in my personal opinion. But I think if things do start to change, they're going to change that real quick, because they don't want to put any press or anybody in a liable situation, even though it could make them a profit. I don't think they want that to go down that road personally.
Najir, what is your thoughts about this, sir?
Oh, Canada, the home of free healthcare and Truesdale cutting that check every month. Man, this has got to be a great time out there. I don't think this is a trend starter here, because I feel like America is taking way more dangerous trends, shall I say, or trying to set a trend in different aspects. I mean, you just announced today that the NFL, let me make sure I read this correctly too, but the NFL did say that the Broncos governor announced that 5,700 people will be able to attend
again.
On the game. So that's the thing, because you got one state saying that we're going to do this in a league full of 32 teams, saying that we're going to try this, and everybody wants the revenue, everybody, and that's where I feel like the trend is, because I feel like TIFF is in its own atmosphere. Canada has been doing things way better than America has when it comes to safety protocols, and the border's been closed, so that also alleviates half of our asses getting out there. So I don't feel like it's a trendsetter, but I feel like people will look into it and say, well, how did they do? And I think they will take that knowledge and go back and do something else with it. But like, I wouldn't necessarily, for directly the question, I don't think it's a trend starter here, but I will think it will make light bulbs go off. NFL executive, also other arena football, other arena sports, theaters in the States, because like, let's be honest, we're all from America. We haven't handled the coronavirus as best as other countries and nations have. And I think that anytime we get any little sample dose of success, we're going to run and say, well, we're going to do that too. It's the same thing with Florida, with wrestling, and wrestling became an essential sport. And then everybody else was like, shit, we're going to do it too. Then Texas opened up, New Jersey's opened up, Arizona's opened up, and that's what I feel like a trend. I feel like everyone's just going to look at at Toronto and say, okay, I see what they're doing. Let's figure out how we can take it and go another way. And I know it's not a trend here, because I don't feel like other rooms are going to take the same protocol here. I think they're going to see success and run with it. But with success comes failure, and with safety comes the measures with it. And I don't think that's what we're doing here. That's why, the beaches in this area have said like, well, our numbers are down, so let's open it up. And then what happened this week? The numbers are back up, because you didn't learn from it. You just saw what you wanted to see and you ran with it.
Well, now, Mo, being the member of the panel that's from the most restrictive city as it pertains to the coronavirus,
New York.
Do you believe that TIFF's decision is more to do with the way America has handled the pandemic, or are we just venturing into areas where these other countries feel that they can open back up and then it could plummet them right back down to where they came from?
I think we have to look at what Venice did, right? Sam mentioned Venice at the beginning, because at the beginning of this thing, I think Europe got hit super hard.
Yeah.
And if they feel like they're safe enough to have a festival and have people come out, and whether you wear a mask or not, you see, that's why I feel like it's a trend, because you've seen what Venice has done, and you're like, okay, we could do it too in Canada, and I think it's safer to it's more difficult, because now you've seen Comic-Con happen, right? And whatever happened with that happened, and whether the buzz was good or bad, But then DC Fandom happened, and that felt like it was a good way to do it. Yeah, it was a success. So I feel like, why are we moving away from, why we shouldn't be too fast to move away from things like that. It's not always going to be good, but it's also not always going to be bad. I think you're asking for trouble when you haven't really solved the issue. The issue is still there, and where I feel like it's a trend now, because Venice has done it, TIFF is doing it next. Who's going to do it? No, who's going to be the next person to do it? And Sam also said, let's watch what happens in the next 2 weeks. If for some reason Venice is successful and nothing breaks out after Venice, TIFF is you're 100% going to do it, and no one is going to be able to stop them because, oh well, look, nothing happened in Venice. But then you could be the person, you could be the one. Your festival could be the one where something happens. You know, I just think it's a slippery slope. I'm not a big fan of it, but I'm not like that far against it to where like, okay, if we can manage it again. Canada, Toronto, they've managed their version of it. And Major said it, man. They're still cutting out those checks every 2 weeks. Hey, they got the money, and if they've managed it so well, where the borders are still closed with America, that means a lot of Americans aren't going. That means a lot of I don't know if they'll allow American movie stars and you to take your movie there.
That's a good question.
You see now, like all those restrictions have to be in place, and if you can keep those in place and keep it safe, hey, why not?
I'll say as a quick rebuttal here is that Toronto's baseline is not the same baseline as America, so you can't really go into it with the same mindset of saying that's what we want to do. And the other thing that I want to add really quick is that also TIFF is also distributing digital screeners for media. So they also are saying, here's an option if you want to view, the certain content that we'll have at there, because they understand that America is a part of their big contribution into making that festival a success. But they're also not saying, well, if you're not here, then you SOL.
No,
I think that's the mindset that provides a good safety protocol, even with the moving forward with the optional face mask. Because, like, to be honest, them saying optional face mask, I don't cringe like when I hear Florida saying optional face mask. I'm like, Chernobyl, Florida got to chill out, but Toronto, Canada is okay.
He said Chernobyl, Florida.
Well, I'll ask a very interesting question. Yes or no for every panel member here. Now, when the CDC released its numbers this week about the coronavirus and the actual effect of the coronavirus, did that sway any of you all's opinion about these type of big events opening up worldwide? Yes or no answer for everybody here. If you don't know what the CDC said, let me know. We can go through it. The CDC released this week that over 85% of the people who passed away from coronavirus, they passed away from an illness they already had, that the coronavirus is amplified.
Okay.
The number of people actually passed away from the coronavirus is under 8,000, and that's in the US. Would that sway your mind either way about these big events that we know are about to open up in this country? Yes or no answer. Sam, yes or no?
It would sway my mind only because I have an infant and I don't know what, I mean, I'm praying against any kind of like future illnesses or future whatevers. From this point, my son has been healthy and good. But I don't want to take any unnecessary risk, as well as I do want my parents to come, and they have had underlying conditions. They have an underlying situation. So I do want to have a time that I can be able to see my parents. I've had asthma when I was in the past. So for me, it doesn't sway it for me in terms of understanding of it. I think, I'm not going to be as harsh or overcritical on certain people that do want to do it, based on the statistics and based on the numbers that CDC is given. But that doesn't change my perspective on it one way or another, unfortunately.
What about you, Najir?
I echo everything Sam says. It just only confirmed what I already was believing.
Mr. Crosby.
Personally, nah, it's not swaying my. Again, if I'm not gonna I'm not gonna diss you for go, but I'll keep myself safe. You know, I still got my mom, who's in Georgia, who I went to go see, and when I went to go see her, I had to be in the house. I couldn't go anywhere, and yeah, like it's for now. Like I will be safe, and if you choose to go, that's fine. Just let me know how it is.
Now, back to news that should keep most people in the house during the holiday season. Today, Microsoft released pricing for the new Xbox console. We have the Xbox X coming in at $499, the Xbox S coming in at $299. Do you all believe with these pricing structures released by Microsoft, they have thrown down the gauntlet at Sony, and that the PlayStation 5 needs to come in lower in price than the Xbox? I'm gonna start with Mr. Najier on this one. And we're gonna start instead with Mr. Leggett.
First off, I'm gonna say Xbox gave me mine, so I appreciate you. I'm just joking. This is Xbox One X. Just joking. Yo! No. So just for debate.
Look here,
so last night
I was about to ask, where is my Team JVS Xbox? They're doing our Xboxes.
But no, so last night, one of the YouTubers randomly was like, I have this headline report. The actual trailer that was brought out today was leaked out online. It actually put out the $299 mark for the Xbox Series S. And I already kind of figured that the X was going to be like around the $500 mark, or if not even $600 mark. But for them to go and put this at $300, people are going to buy it, to be honest with you. Like, people are going to be like, yo, I'm going to get a next-gen console. I'm already done with this Xbox. A lot of people have both systems. Some people have PlayStation 4s and Xbox Ones, and they're like, yo, I just need to get like the next-gen console. And there's not enough to entice people to get an Xbox One X because there's not any launching title that's even going to be with it. Halo's not going to be with it, so there's nothing to entice people. But this, any parent, they're like, yo, it's only $300 to get a next-gen Xbox. Oh, shoot, let's get it. They're not going to look at the specs that are lower than what the PlayStation 5 are. They're not going to look at, the fact that it can't go past an upscaled 4K. They're not going to care about it having a non-optical drive. They're just like, this is a next-gen console.
It's a next-gen console.
Win. And that's a huge win on their end. And I personally think that all PlayStation 5 got to do with their digital version is mark that to around $349 or $399, and PlayStation will still be fine, because the reality is they are starting with multiple launch titles. Just the Miles Morales game alone is already going to entice people that want to get the game. But if somebody said, like, tomorrow, PlayStation's like, well, we're going to be putting our digital copy for $349 that's going to come with Miles Morales Spider-Man, you can best believe that's an immediate counteraction. They don't have to. I still say that they should probably just stick it to $399, stick it there, but then give like a holiday sale for $50 off, and they'll be able to mediate those prices, because you need games to work with the next gen console. I think it's a great deal that Xbox is doing, because they're talking about the Game Pass. You'll have like the Game Pass. They're talking about, I think, also the Xbox Live, and then you also get the console at the same time. That's great. That means you have like up to 100 some games automatically comes with it, but they're not next gen necessarily. So I think it's a good move, and I think it is going to make sure to secure that $399 for the digital version for the PlayStation 5. But outside of that, I mean, PlayStation still has a lot that they can do to counter it, and they're going to have to in some ways. But it's not a big deal because they haven't announced any prices yet.
Okay, now Najier, I'm going to try you again, sir. What are your thoughts on this topic?
I do apologize for Verizon Fios player hating for the night. Look, here's my thing. I don't recall there ever being when the next generation of consoles come out that the price are so much different from each other. These systems have coats, and whatever you like, you're going to pay for. All I'm here to say is that all my young kings out there that's trying to get these next gen consoles, make sure that your queens take care of you, because if you're not copping one, you know you deserve better. So you make sure, no matter whatever system that you choose, you know you make sure your queens take care of you, because your young kings, you've been busting your ass for 11 months Valentine's this year. Day. You know, you've been putting in that work, and all you want is that next gen. You may not have to get no games, but you need to get that system. That's all that matters. But I will say this though: if the games come in at the $80 mark, my cheap ass gonna be pretty upset. I don't know if I can pay an $80 game. But I will say this though: Sam has a brilliant point, and I think that, you know, even when it comes down to the launch of next generation games, is much like politics. Are you voting red or are you voting blue? And, you know, however you want to make it seem like, it's their cult followings, and it's always the tipping curve. What makes you a swing state? Well, these exclusive games, they count. Miles Morales, that's a game right there. The two hottest properties of all of all the comic books are Spider-Man and Batman. And Batman game's already been announced for 2021. That means that this Spider-Man game is the hottest commodity of video games launching for 2020. I don't care what came out at the beginning of this year. Final Fantasy remake, whatever. I don't care. This Miles Morales game is the hottest. And you know what else is crazy? Because the movie follows right after this too. And we know how damn good that movie did last holiday season. And coronavirus means that it had to get pushed back. God, if they came out the same year, it'd be a no-brainer. This PlayStation 5 will be doing monumental release numbers. But at the same time, while it doesn't have that same momentum, everyone still recognizes that game being a must-have. And I think that's going to really, really, really make PlayStation stay set at its price, but knows that it has that Joker in its pocket at all times. Now, if they come out with the bundles, oh boy, they come out with the theme. Oh man, look. Sam will tell you, you could already have had a PlayStation 4, but when that PlayStation 4 theme came out with Spider-Man, sold out. Sold out. Batman PlayStation 4.
That is a shame. But I'm gonna bring up another interesting point that I found out earlier today in Earth 2 Kamikazes chat, that along with Game Pass, as Sam mentioned earlier, Microsoft is also bundling the games and the system for $35 a month.
Yes.
If you're a parent during a holiday season and your kids want multiple kids and your kids want a next gen console, how do you pass up on
you can't.
I could just give you $35 a month for this system?
Like, it makes so much sense. And this is you guys made great points, but the world is watching, because now you've dropped a next gen console for technically the same price as your current consoles, or some current consoles with the bundles in them. And you have this console, and you can definitely now backwards compatibility comes straight out the box with it. So, I get the next gen, but I get to play Halo Reach. I'm just putting that out there. No one plays Halo Reach, but like I get the next, I get the next gen console, and I get to play this. I get to play all these games. And if you currently have, or if you bought the new 2K that came out, you don't have to buy a new game for. You don't have to buy the next gen 2K, because you can right out the box you can play at $299. I think it's a great price. I don't know if it shakes PlayStation, because that Miles Morales game, even if it's an expandalone, because you have to put that out there. Because remember when the news dropped?
We had enough discussions about it being an expandalone game, which is we've heard that before from PlayStation. What an expandalone game means.
There's people that were excited when they announced Miles Morales, and then they realized, wait a minute, it's just an expansion. So do I have to get the next gen to play an expansion? Not really. But if they do bundle it up, Xbox is in trouble. Period. I think it's a great foothold into the next gen foray.
I'm gonna stop you right there because you brought up something that I want to address with you and then everyone else about if they bundle, Microsoft will be in trouble. Now, I've said repeatedly, and news has come out repeatedly about how Microsoft views their gaming division. What happens if during the holiday season, Microsoft decides to even drop that price lower of their new system, considering that Microsoft, unlike Sony, can take losses for their gaming division and it not affect the company? Would that then have any effect on how anyone views the gaming console? If Sony decides their cheaper version, their digital only version, they decide to put a $50 coupon on it, as Sam says, and Microsoft comes back and says, well, we'll sell ours for $199 during this same exact period.
Listen, if they do that, I can't. Nah, you see, and if they do that and they do the financing, they're up top. They will sell more units just based on the fact that everyone is looking at, like, as Sam said, parents, or Najer said, parents. You're looking at pricing again. You're not looking at specs, like Sam said. You're not caring that, oh well, it doesn't have an optic drive or it's 500 gigs for the hard drive on the Series S. You don't care. You just care that your kids want the new Xbox and it's $199 and you can pay $30 a month for it with Game Pass and Xbox Live. It's a sell. It's a quick sell for a parent, because if you came into GameStop and you looked at the PlayStation without the optical drive at $349 or $300 with the Spider-Man game, and you looked at the $199 new Xbox, because that's all you're going to see. It's a new Xbox. It's not. You don't care what it is. Because the Series S is literally less than a 1X, because the 1X has 4K. Series S doesn't. Xbox knows what they're doing. Microsoft knows what they're doing. As you said, they can operate with the laws. They've been operating on the laws on the Xbox for this entire time with no issue, and they're still no issue. And the third biggest company in the world. They know exactly what they're doing. Console, so they know what they're doing. At this point, I think that price point is a nice entry. It's almost like a nice entry point for them, and we just have to watch what happens come holiday season when PlayStation announces. So Sam and Najir, I'm gonna give you all one question on this topic. Give me an answer in a minute or less. Who will drive the console sales this holiday season? Children or parents? Sam first. Oh, come on.
Man, come on, man. Look, no, sorry. Kids, man. Kids. First off, kids are losing their minds right now because they are sitting there trying to figure out how to even log in to do their classwork. Half the parents then gave up on even trying to get their kids to do the classwork. So absolutely, like, the parents are gonna want to have their kids to be mediated, to have something to themselves, and I think a next gen console will be right up their alley. So I think technically the kids, but the parents also are just losing their minds and trying to get like an escape. But I mean, I'm gonna leave one thing about this is that the specs, if you look at the Xbox One X, that's current gen right now, and compare that to the Xbox Series S, it's about the same, and you still have an optical drive with the 4K player. So technically, the current gen X has better value than the Series. But I mean, I'm not saying that to dismiss anybody. I just know that Microsofts are geniuses for this. They're straight up geniuses. And honestly, if Halo dropped with it, I would get that joint. I would get it straight up. Like if it had Halo with it, I'd get it. So Najir, same quick question.
Now, I'm just gonna. I gotta.
Look here. If you pull out an Xbox also, a big gold belt edition, we're gonna have a problem, sir.
Excuse me, real quick, while I stunt on these haters real fast.
These speakers hit.
No, look, let me be quite frank, real quick, because I feel like this question.
Oh well.
You know what? That's what happens when you call on haters find a way to get in touch with Verizon and to cut your service.
Like,
and look,
get out of here.
That was anonymous that hated on me real quick. You know, he's always bringing that anonymous and what's the other one? Anonymous and the other dude, they always have an Xbox joint. No, but seriously though, Xbox has a better GUI because it's by Microsoft. Sony has what GUI? Because no, it doesn't have an operating system. So we're just going to just throw it out there. Here's what it really matters, and I can't think of the term. And I've been thinking about it since you originally asked the question. There's a term that is really important about how sales are going to be done. Now, Microsoft can take losses because that's how they've been thriving for years.
Yes.
And they can do incentives. But when it comes down to Black Friday, because it comes out November 14th, 2 weeks from now, it's Black Friday. That's when this thing is going to get real shifty. But it's when you look for something on Black Friday, it's always about who has the best price. You know, it's not going to be a lot of price wiggle here because it just came out. But the next question is, well, what's the incentives with it? Of course, Microsoft internally can offer incentives. But PlayStation may have the leverage, and I don't know this, but they may have the leverage about how their sales are being done. Now, the term I can't think of it, and I know somebody in the comments is going to say something, but like, for example, Apple makes you pay to sell their products. I don't know what Sony's deal is with how their stuff is put into there. So my question is, does Sony have leverage to say, hey, Target, if you want the new gen PlayStation, I need you to bundle a $15 Target card on top of this sale.
I can answer that question very quickly for you.
Go ahead.
No.
Wow.
But it has been done though. This is the thing.
It's been done, but it's been done at the consumer level. So when you have that stuff done, especially with a company like Target, Sony doesn't have any other product to really entice people with. Now, Microsoft can literally go to them and say, hey, you're going to bundle XYZ with this product, or we'll make sure nothing Windows comes your way for a long period of time.
And I agree with that. I mean, but Sony has TVs and they have entertainment systems, and those are big driving factors in anybody's electronic. I mean, because without that in a Best Buy or Target, all you got is Vizio and Insomnia, you know what I mean? And when you go in there, people are saying, I need the latest Sony. I'm sorry, Sony is just the staple of television, no matter if you agree with it or not. Or Samsung. Or Samsung. One or two. Yeah, one or two without doubt. But I don't have enough knowledge to be able to say rightfully what's what. But I do think when it comes down to the sales, that's where it's going to get pivotal, because people are going to say they're both the same price. What do I get the most bang for my buck? Oh, shoot, I can get a PlayStation 5 and an extra controller for the same price at that place, you know. But that's the thing. Xbox can do that all day, every day. It's not a problem for them. PlayStation may not be able to. So I think that's where it's really going to come down to, as to where the swing states, I'll say, in the sales of this. But it's going to be interesting. Black Friday this year is going to be wild.
I think now, speaking on to move the dial on this 100%. We're gonna have, if I was a parent looking at those deals and the $30 a month, yeah, man, it's no brainer.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lou. And to your question too, it's kids all the way. It's always kids. Everything is by kids.
Thank you, sir, for taking the long
kids drive the sales. Kids drive the sales.
We greatly appreciate it. Now, speaking of Black Friday and everything magically becoming black, today it was announced by Tracy Ellis Ross that herself, Regina King, Alfre Woodard, and Sanaa Lathan will be putting on a live rendition of the Golden Girls with an episode about voter suppression and racial injustice. Now, gentlemen, I'm going to ask a very simple question here. Is this going too far? So first, I'm going to start with Mr. Crosby on this one, because the look on his face, I think I know his answer.
I don't get it. I don't understand. I just don't. If you want, you could have done so. Like you did. You could have done so many other things. You could have put him in talk. you guys could have come together and had a whole, like, you know, like the table thing they do with the women.
With Jada, so Jada should have been there. They could have had a nice entanglement. Is that what you're saying?
It's not an entanglement.
Okay.
You know the Hollywood reporter table.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The actors. Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
You could have done that. You could have done that. I mean, if this is, because I know the episode they're trying to do, and it's an important episode, but it's an important Golden Girls episode where the cast is important to that, to the subject matter. It's not the same. Again, just leave it alone, man. Just do something else. No,
I'm gonna leave it there with Mr. Crosby.
Yeah, I'm done.
Sam, do you echo the same sentiments as Mr. Crosby with the just leave it alone?
No, I'm gonna chime in. I understand what they're trying to do, but I don't think it's necessary. I think that honestly, this doesn't even have to be this. Like, I don't understand why they're trying to reenact it. And even if they are trying to reenact it, they could have had, you know, the same ethnicity. It didn't. It's unnecessary. To me, it's unnecessary. If I think back to the Golden Girls episode that I felt like went down that road was when Don Cheadle's character felt like a certain kind of way. When, what was it? It was like a group that kind of came into town. They kind of came from the South or whatever. And he was like, bro, they're being mad disrespectful. And one of the Golden Girls didn't get it. You know what I'm saying? And like, he was like, no, like, I'll quit. Like, you don't understand what this means to me, what they believe in, what this Confederate flag means to me. And I felt like that worked. Like, I mean, I just don't understand why they're doing it this way. I think it's just unnecessary, but I think that they're doing it defensively, because if they did try to do it with an all Caucasian cast and tried to reenact it, it might be some problems. So I don't know from an environment standpoint if it would have worked one way or another. So I get why they're doing it. I just think it's kind of overkill. They should have just had like a conversation about it, or gone over the episode and kind of just talked around it at a talking table.
Right? Yeah.
Maybe brought one of the cast members and just talked about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many different ways they could have played this out. They didn't have to do a reenactment. And I think it's overkill in my personal perspective. But yeah.
Najir, you final one on the topic. What do you think here, sir?
I mean, number one, most and for all, people go out and vote. The reason why they're trying to do this is because they see a problem within the African American community amongst the people of not showing up to vote. So I get the positive here, and that is absolutely an issue that needs to be addressed more so than ever. People need to get out there and vote. Number two, the approach, Mo nailed it. First of all, the Golden Girls, which is one of Hulu's most watched shows. And I get that, oh, that's let's just be frank, they probably looked at it as like, oh, that's a white show that's really well watched. Let's see what we can do. But it doesn't even make sense, because it's not the white people that's having a problem voting. It's our people. So you can remake that to blue. You could turn them to avatars. It's not going to make a damn difference, because it's not addressing us directly in the voting aspect. So I feel like the direction, execution, and everything is just all wrong. I have no clue what the motive behind this, but it has to do with money, if you ask me, of some sort. But like Mo said, the Golden Girls is the reason why the Golden Girls is still around. The reason why it's never been no episodes that have been pulled and there's been controversy around this, because they have touched on racial things, societal things, and they have dressed it in a way for their audience that made sense. And that's why, again, the whole seasons of all of them on Hulu was no problem. And we know we're in the era of when there's even an issue of the slightest thing, pull that baby. And that's not a thing. So it just does not make sense to me at all. I'm sorry. This is a fail here. If you really want to do something that makes sense, then make a show a blackish, grownish, or black AF, and do that. Use them platforms to send that message. Or hell, y'all so connected with everybody. Ask Netflix, can y'all do a special on something and make it original? So I don't get this at all, bro. This is a nah for me.
Now, moving on from this topic and going to our last, which also deals with controversies, amazingly. So this could possibly be one of the worst weeks for Disney Entertainment. First, we had Mr. John Boyega discuss that he feels Disney does not know how to market Black characters, or as he put it, minority characters, because he also put in other people into his discussion. At the exact same time, we have the boycotts that are currently going on about the Mulan movie, with its star supporting the police and kind of, unfortunately, police brutality. Also, it was revealed today that certain sections of Mulan was filmed in certain parts of the country where people are held and tortured, and that Disney thanked some of the people responsible for torturing people at the end credits of Mulan. So, gentlemen, with all these controversies surrounding Disney, along with the knowledge that we all know that Disney has not been the strongest company as of late, how much could this end up hurting this company? So I'm going to start with Mr. Najir.
It's not COVID, so it's nothing to be worried about. Just to be honest, that's the biggest enemy of this entire year, and that's the one that truly forces Disney hand. This means nothing to me. Unfortunately, I don't know enough about Mulan to have a stance on that, so I won't speak on that. But John Boyega, I hear it and I sympathize with his stance. I don't know. I'm not an actor. I'm not on set.
Everybody Black.
I don't like Wale, but I do love that song. But I'll say this though, like when it comes down to Star Wars, there's one discrepancy I have with what he say, and that's the issue between episode 8 and 9, and that's the continuity between the two films, or 7, 8, 9, I'll say. So I feel like his character was left in that limbo, because that's what happens when you have two different visions, Snyder Cut, by instance, and another person, for instance. So, like, when you have two different visions of things, that you get results like this. So I feel what he's saying, but I also feel like that he may not be a direct target of this. I feel like he just may be a casualty for two different visions of a storyline. And I just want to be 100% clear that, like, what he's saying, I'm not negating that, but I just see from a person who's consuming the last 3 episodes of Star Wars that I can see clearly that there's trouble in paradise, because him, Rose, and I forgot who else he mentioned, the characters felt different regardless of how much they were using or underused. It just, the integrity from 7, 8, 9 wasn't there. I love J.J. Abrams, and when he said he wasn't going to do 8, I never knew that it was going to be like driving a car off a cliff, how different the two movies were and how much they built off a certain day. And to be honest, so that people don't think I'm just talking over my head, I mean, we can clearly talk about the main character and what's her name? Not Jen. What's her name, Sam? The main Jedi.
Rey.
Rey, excuse me, Rey. Where her character has so much poise about who was her parents that episode 8 was like, oh, they're just drunks. It's like, oh shoot, you built so much about who her parents were, and then it just fizzled to nothing. Or what about that little boy that, you know, closed out episode 7 and he had the force with the broom, and oh wait, we never seen him again. I mean, they're white, but like when you think about a character that was probably whispered like, hey little boy, we got something for you, and then episode 8 was like, nah, bro, just go ahead, head on. We don't got nothing for you. And that's why I'm looking at that from that, like from a viewer standpoint. But if he feels like on set, I wholeheartedly, I'm all ears and eyes, because I know that type of stuff exists.
Now, Mo, I'm going to throw this to you as one half of, again, one of the greatest podcasts in the world. This clearly sounds like a topic that podcast would have touched on.
Oh, definitely would have touched on it.
Controversies with Disney. Does this hurt them?
We loved it. We love that shit. I don't know if it's explicitly going to hurt them. It's just gonna have, like, everyone is looking at Disney now, from Mulan to John Boyega to no, that Mulan thing is huge. The fact that they filmed it was
extremely huge right now.
It's because, again, if you remember how the world reacted to the fact that NBA players didn't say anything about Hong Kong, and now we find out that the star of your movie says
it almost, not to interrupt you, Mo, but it's almost equivalent of a star of an all-black movie coming out right now and saying Blue Lives Matter.
Yo.
It will be the same equivalence of which she did
100%
to the protesters
and
in
then
Hong
you
Kong.
find out that they filmed it where they filmed it, like that part of it. First of all, she did what she did, but then they filmed it where they filmed it, and Disney in the credits says, "Thanks to blah blah blah." Yo, that is huge. So for the people that have seen it and then saw that and then decided to write about that and whatever reviews they did, everyone is looking at Disney right now. How is Disney going to play it? Usually Disney's very Teflon with a lot of the shit that happens with them. Everything like rolls right off them, but I don't know if they can shake this one off because the Mulan thing has been huge from the start of it, from like when they found out she was, she was like, I'm not going to say Blue Lives Matter, what the alternative is in China. When she said that, when she supports the police, it's been a big thing. People have been calling for a boycott for the movie from then. So the boycott isn't new. But then you now add, you have to throw the parsley on top with John Boyega saying what he's saying. And it's a fact. It's a known fact that colored characters or African-American characters in Star Trek are usually like never really used like that. Like they're always like the very side characters. I mean, it's never been shined a light. I mean, the biggest light right now is because of what John Boyega has done and said and how, these are the 3 biggest Star Trek movies. And I think you can actually very much see it. So yes, I think it's a controversy that will, I don't know if it's going to hurt them like in the long run, but it's going to dent their little like untouchable armor, like their little Iron Man armors that has a little dent in it.
Now, Sam, I'm throw this to you, Sam, because Mo has 3 times said something that's going to get us absolutely killed in the comments by confusing Star Trek with Star Wars. I know how nerds are, and nerds are going to lose their mind because he did it 3 times. But Sam,
Discovery's in my head, my bad.
But Sam, I'm going to ask you the same question, but I'm going to frame you a little differently here. While John Boyega feels that way, do you think anyone at Disney could possibly, even though we know they're not going to do it, throw in his face that maybe it was his character that they did not want to market because they had absolutely no issue marketing Donald Glover to the nines for Solo? Or Donnie Yen, same thing with Rogue One. So could it have just been a situation where they didn't view those characters as being important? Also, you saw Mulan, you liked Mulan. Did that controversy affect you at all? Go ahead, sir.
Well, first off, Disney is trying to say, Apple, buy me, please. Help me. No. So to be fair, I think that Disney has been taking L's for the past 6 months. Bad. Like it started with the beginning of the pandemic, onward, no pun intended. And like they lost their schedule for the different like Marvel-based things that people were really excited about. And it's sad because again, I did like Mulan, and I think that I did a little bit of number tracking that Mulan did pretty well. It only opened in 7 different regions. It got like close to 6 million for that. I think that Disney got a couple different gains, like 3.9% gains from the point that Mulan came out, which is great. And even the same thing kind of with Hamilton. Hamilton gave a little bit of a gain here or there, but it's like every single moment they try to get somewhere, it just keep getting knocked back down. And it's just building bad because the whole thing about the boycott, it was like as much as I was sitting there talking about certain things I liked about it, everybody in Black Twitter land was like, no, like this is not my Mushu is not in it. Like it don't got no musicals, and then he's making me pay $30 for it. And then on top of that, it's got this person that believes this, like it had everything going against it. And I mean, it's hard, man. I think personally, in my opinion, Disney, I don't know, man, they're at a deficit on so many different levels. It's gonna be interesting to see where like movies like Soul is gonna go, or even Black Widow, what they're gonna really do from a marketing standpoint. But touching on the whole John Boyega thing, personally, Lou, I think that Donnie Yen was, like you said, like he was in Mulan. They marketed him. Like they were like, yo, Donnie Yen is in this, Jet Li is in this. They didn't heavily market him. But I think that when it came to Star Wars specifically and the Finn character, one of the problems that happened, and I don't know if this was JJ, I don't know if this was Kathleen, I don't know if this was Disney in general, they made us feel like we may have an African-American or minority character that is Force sensitive, at the very least. He didn't even have to be a Jedi. It was just that prospect of like, wow, maybe both Rey and Finn are gonna be Jedi or Force sensitive or a great Jedi. Like that whole thing enticed people to go to the movie theaters. Like, in all honesty, episode 7, that was like the thing that was like, if you look at those initial posters, it marketed that. And I think that from John's perception, I don't know if he knew what the script was gonna be or whatever, that transition period from going over from 7 to 8. But I think that he at least assumed his character was gonna be something more than what it was. And unfortunately, that wasn't what it was. Like, you know, by the time it got to 8, he was left to a second tier character, as well as Poe Dameron. Like, it was really a different narrative. And anybody that was a minority from that point on was at a lesser state. And it's weird because even with the Donald Glover situation, when it came to the movie that he was in with Solo, initially Solo was completely different. I don't even know what the original Solo script was, but they knew that they had to sell this movie, and they didn't have anybody in that cast that was like, you know, we got to go get. So they had to use Donald Glover in the position they did. And it's even more telling now that he's going to have his own series. So I think that Disney knows what they're doing to get butts and seats and get people watching on the screen. Do they care about minorities in the way that they're portrayed and positioned? I don't necessarily know if that's true or not. I would look at it from the contrary, and I would look at it from looking at what I see and my perception of it, is it could be done a lot better. I think it honestly, things could have shaped up a lot differently when it came to the Star Wars universe when it comes to minorities. And that doesn't mean it might not change, but as it stands right now, when you think about the most iconic voice of all times is James Earl Jones, and when you think about the legacy of what Star Wars really was built on, you know, that was a missed opportunity on certain different levels that they could have established with Finn's character. So I understand where John Boyega's, you know, hurt is, but in all honesty, that's the business. Like, that's a part of it. You're an actor. That goes into the whole Rey thing. It doesn't matter what you believe is right or wrong in the sense of the business. They don't care about that. But does things need to change? Could they change? I absolutely am behind that. I think they absolutely should change. Things like that shouldn't happen, but they do. But yeah, I think that Disney is kind of burying themselves right now. Something needs to happen or Apple's going to buy them. And maybe they should.
Now, I would like to thank our panelists for breezing through these 5 topics and in under an hour, which is always a great thing here in podcast land. Now, I know for you all out there in the world, it's one topic we did not touch on this week. That is a huge entertainment topic. Now, the reason why we did not touch on this topic, because first and foremost, we don't believe in necessarily giving people attention that we feel have not earned attention yet. We're not going to approach certain topics that way.
Alluding to?
Hey, everybody knows why. You're just not going to say that. He who's not exactly is Lizzo trying to twerk on a bodyguard. That's what we're referring to, Mo.
But Lizzo not making a cut for WAP.
We could have just kept the moving. I would never have known.
Lizzo didn't make the cut for WAP, man.
Hey, but you see how quickly it could turn into someone else and a completely different, someone's different cut issue of a person. Oh, but thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for rocking with us on another episode of The Rundown with Lou. Please check us out again next week. Peace, people.
Later, y'all.
Thanks for having me.
Big go back.